My first Toastmaster meeting that I ever went to was at Pacific Bell. I was a consultant there. And I walked into the room, and the room was packed. I think at the long table that they had, there was probably room for about 16 people, and then there were side chairs, and every one of the side chairs were filled. This was a very active club. And I wanted to know what Toastmasters was all about. And I heard two speakers get up. I heard maybe 4 or 5 table topics people get up. And then I heard something that was really interesting. I heard evaluators get up and give instant feedback to the people who had prepared speeches. And they were able to grow because of what was given to them. I was a project manager at the time, and I had a very large organization. My organization was 73 locations throughout the state of California, and I was responsible for every one of them. And I had to ensure not only that we had the project come in on time, but on time together. So all 73 locations had to be performing together. So like we learned with having a vision with where you're going, you had to have a strong vision with what's going on, and you had to be able to express that to every person that was working there. But the one thing I found out is everybody that is working for you or with you, I always like to look at things as with you, they all work at a different pace, they have their own vision, you have a vision you're trying to give them, and they all have a different idea of what on time means. So it became very important for me, and one of the things that I learned in Toastmasters was that to give a proper evaluation helps you in the end at coming together to fruition with what your project is going to be. I joined Toastmasters right after that because I needed my project to succeed. And the reason I give all of that background is because that background is exactly how we need to look at what our evaluations are. We give evaluations in lots of parts of our lives. We give evaluations to our children if we have children at home. We give evaluations to our spouses if we have spouses at home, or significant others as the term is today. But also, even within our friends, we give evaluations of how either our relationship is going or how something that they may have tried to do winds up in the end. And the end result is always the same. You want to affect change. But you can't change someone else. That someone else will not change on their own. They have to be, let me reword that. People, in order to change, have to be encouraged to do it on their own. So it has to be their idea, if you will. And that is the basis for what an evaluation is. It's to give someone the motivation and the tools to be able to change on their own. We as Toastmasters evaluate speeches because we come here to be better speakers. But the one thing that we can't do on our own is we can't see how someone else receives the words that we give out. Notice I said we can't see how those words came out. And you would think that I should say hear how those words come out. But we can always hear the words. They're coming out of our mouth. They're coming out of our head. But you need to be able to see how are they being received on the other side. I may say potato, and you may say potato. And in the long run, they both mean the same thing. However, somebody's reception of something may be 180 degrees off from what your message is really being. For those of us that are married, have been married, especially those of us that have been married more than once, we recognize the fact that we can say something and it can have an effect that is completely off from what we expected it to be. It happens on an everyday basis with me because what I say isn't always received exactly the way that it was supposed to be transmitted in the first place. So the first aspect of evaluations is to let the person know that who we're evaluating how it was received. I heard whatever. I felt whatever. Notice I'm using and I'm emphasizing the I felt, the I heard, the I saw, because in an argument state, it is how I received, how I feel, how I heard that matters. When you start saying, you did, the minute you said those two words, you just lost whatever argument it was. Evaluations are technically a controlled argument, if you will. It's one-sided. I am giving my side. However, the first side was already brought in. I know that when my wife and I have disagreements, I've developed a tool to what we do is and she always knows that we're in trouble when we do this. I bring two chairs out into the middle of the room. We have to sit in the chairs and our knees have to touch. It's very important. Your knees have to touch. You have to be that close that you have a physical intimacy with what's going on. And then one person is allowed to speak. The other person is not allowed to speak at all until the first person is done. Then the other person has all the time in the world to reply because they're not going to be interrupted as well. I always let my wife go first.
That's just smart.
Because we're trying to arrive at a conclusion. We're trying to arrive at an effect where we're affecting some sort of change. And evaluations are exactly that. We're trying to affect a specific change. How did I receive the words that you gave? The next thing that we need to do in evaluation is to pick out things that that person did extremely well. I heard this because the way that you presented it was in the contrast that you gave made it vivid within my mind so that I was able to see and hear from your point of view. The thing after that is, if you had raised your voice to this loudness at this particular point in time above the rest, you would have stressed where that particular point would have been. If the motions that you use with your arms were larger when something large comes upon and small when something's there, that picture that comes in my mind is much clearer. Because you've just taken apart something that someone said, you have to put it together. So in a nice spirited way, you also come back and reiterate an extremely positive thing that that person was able to provide to you. Those kind of evaluations lead someone to want to change. And when want to change is what we're trying to accomplish. Evaluations are over important in everything that we do.